It is Saturday, October the 21st, 2023. You are listening to Wes and Shelley Share, episode 22, Grandparent Memories. Where are we today, Shelley?
Well, today we have ventured over to our favorite hiking club, and Springs Close. Today they're having a big shrimp and crawfish boil fundraiser, but we parked and then headed the other direction. We actually walked on a horse trail today. So Wes and I have come up a different way. We've been to this area called the Dairy Barn before for the summer concert series, but we've never
loved. It was my favorite part of the whole summer.
So, but this is where a lot of the people keep their horses here. And so we kind of walked up from the main part, Lake Hagler entrance where we usually park. So we avoided the crowds today. We had a nice little picnic and we are looking out now over the horses. It's beautiful. It's a great evening.
I think this may be the first one we've recorded on a Saturday, but it's such a beautiful place. So I thought, hey, we could record our podcast. And we have thought, we take notes kind of off and on about things that we could talk about. And we mentioned that it would probably be fun to talk about memories with our grandparents because among a few other people that we know about, we're pretty sure our daughters are listening. So, actually, though, I want to talk about the history of this place a little bit before we talk about grandparent memories. So there's a couple cabins here, and the one that we just had a lovely charcuterie board picnic, which was like a $10 thing at Costco, but it was actually decent, was the cabin that the grandfather of Billy Graham grew up in. And it was located in another place and moved...
3 miles from here.
Yeah, it was moved to this location. But it was built in the late 1700s, and people lived in it for 200 years. So it's like 2 stories. So that's really cool. And then there's another cabin just right behind us, and it was built in the very early 1800s. And there was some Civil War history because the son...
left for the
Civil War and walked back. And we're right by this road, which was like the Great Philadelphia Road. And what was the other name for it? The Great Nations Road? Road or something? Nation Ford Road. Anyway, so it was the road that went all the way up from the Carolinas to the Northeast up to Philadelphia. And there was a canal in South Carolina that we went to, gosh, when was that? Last spring, maybe? Mm-hmm. And
Catawba River.
On the Catawba River, and it's the same road. But anyway, that is cool. They said almost
from Virginia. No.
Well, I mean, it's from here all the way up to Philadelphia. Yeah, it's called the Philadelphia Road, Great Wagon Road. So anyway, kind of cool to have that history around, and just not. There are lots of traces of history, but not as much history that's that old. So, anyway, reminded me of the Ranching Heritage Museum, and Shelley worked there for a while, and they had all kinds of houses that were from all over different parts of Texas that they were preserving. So, let's talk about grandparents. What do you remember about your grandparents?
Well, the main grandparents that I really remember who I visited were my mother's parents. So my grandmother's name was Lucille. Her maiden name was Sigafus. And then she married my grandfather, Kenneth. So Kenneth Lovell. And so we had Lucille and Kenneth Lovell. I should have probably studied a little bit, but when I knew them, they lived in Dalhart, Texas, and that's where my mother and my father both grew up. They went to high school together, but they never dated in high school. They didn't date until after they were in college at West Texas State University. My grandfather, Kenneth, worked at the bank. His father was a doctor, and was a doctor in Dalhart during the Dust Bowl era, and there were only 2 doctors in town, and so he worked out of his house, and then later my grandmother and my grandfather lived there as well. He died, Kenneth died when I was in third grade. And one of the main things I remember about my grandparents when he was still alive was visiting them with my sister Jana. Mom and Dad must have been on a trip. I'm not too sure why we were at our grandparents'. But I remember there was a tornado, and it was probably a tornado warning. I mean, I'm sure things then weren't as scientific as they are now. But all I remember is we all jumped in the car and went out to the lake to see if we could see it. Yeah. So anyway, we loved going out to the lake, and there was a great playground there. And so I that's what I remember about my grandfather. Not a whole lot. I do remember later, after my grandfather died, visiting my grandmother several times. I would ride the bus from Lubbock, Texas, all the way to Dalhart. We would stop in Amarillo. Usually my aunt would come and meet me and whatever, and then I would go on from there. And I love visiting my grandmother. She taught me to sew, and that was lovely. My grandmother was a wonderful seamstress and made all of my mother's and my aunt's clothes, and they were just perfect. I mean, Mother said a lot of her friends were always really jealous because they would have the clothes at the latest styles and everything, because my grandmother could copy any pattern and make it. So I remember that. I remember going to my grandmother's house. It always smelled like roast. Seems like when we would go to visit, grandmother would always have a roast. I can remember angel food cake with strawberry icing. That was her signature cake. And she always had Big Red, Phantom, like Big Red soda, strawberry soda. And so those are the little things. I remember we would always stay in the front room, and there were toys from when my mother was little, and we would enjoy playing with those. She had a big porch, and we would sit outside and play on the big front porch. It was concrete, and we'd play jacks and jump rope, and so that was always fun too. I remember my dad. We talked about his mother. She died when I was 6 months old, so I don't remember anything about her. But I do remember visiting my great-grandmother several times. And I remember going to her funeral. I'm not too sure when she passed away, but I do remember going to her funeral and visiting some of my dad's side of the family. We didn't have a lot. We didn't get together with my dad's side of family very often, or I don't really know much about them at all. But Dalhart has definitely some very fond memories for me. So what about your grandparents, Wes? What do you remember from your grandparents?
Well, the most memories I have are with Mom's parents, Richard and Trudy Henley. Gertrude Henley was her full name, and then Trudy is what she was known by, and my sister is named for her. I was born in Phoenix, Arizona in 1970. We moved to Alabama shortly after that. But my dad's dad, Granddad Fryer, actually passed away rather dramatically on the golf course when I was like 2 months old. So they had come down from Powell, Wyoming, where my dad grew up, to see, and I was the first Fryer grandson. So Dad's sister, Aunt Marge, who's still with us at 92, doing great. She's a Wilder, and so anyway, interesting how I was the first male, Fryer. And Dad actually gave CPR, attempted to resuscitate his dad on the golf course. So that was very traumatic. One of the things this makes me think of, though, is we need to do an interview like this with Dad over Christmas to get him to share what he remembers about his grandparents. Because it's like, how many generations back can you touch, right? So Dad's mother, maybe both of them. I know for sure his mother was born in 1903, because that's one of those things that's repeated a lot, because the Wright brothers flew in 03, and she lived until, I want to say, 91 or 92. I do remember vaguely being at Dad's house, which is like 802 Rumsey in Powell, Wyoming. And that small, and I think they had a basement, and like he had like a what was it? It was like it was a metal truck, but it was like, I think it had said pie on the edge of it. Anyway, it was some of his toys that I got. There's big lilacs, I guess, that were, planted when Dad was little. They're huge now. But Graham, which is what we called his mother went by Tittle. She came to live with us for a little bit. So there was a period of time, I think maybe when I don't remember if we were in Texas or if we were in Alabama. We moved to Lubbock, Texas, after Alabama, coincidentally, because Dad was in the Air Force and Reese Air Force Base was there. But I remember she painted, I wonder if we still have that. She painted a dog. There was this ceramic dog. Because anyway, she had some depression and as she was recovering and things like that, lived with us. And I remember when she moved back, so there's a place in Powell called the Rocky Mountain Manor. And I remember promising her that I would write to her, and I did, and I wrote her letters, and she wrote back. And this reminds me that we have a small tape, which is a reel-to-reel tape that she recorded, I think, and Dad too, in like 1972 or something like that. And when we were in Oklahoma, I tried to go to a vintage technology place and get a player to play it back and couldn't get it. So anyway, I need to chase that down here in Charlotte to convert it, because wouldn't it be so amazing? Because I don't think Dad has any audio recordings at all of his mother or Marge for that matter. And so one of the things that's interesting about that is you have to figure out what speed to play it at, whether that sounds correct. So anyway, that's in a box in our office right now that we need to get. So I remember writing to Graham. I remember visiting Rocky Mountain Manor. I have vivid memories of that. I also remember her funeral, but see, it's also through photos. And that's a weird thing about memories is like, do you remember it or do you remember pictures? Because we took a whole bunch of pictures at the cemetery. But it was very special. Was it 3 years ago when we had the South Dakota family reunion? The Fryer side of the family gets together every 3 years. And this summer we'll be together in Minnesota. But anyway, we were in South Dakota and we got to go to Powell. And so going with Dad and Rachel and Sarah, and we visited the gravestone of his parents and found that and visiting there, and also visiting his house and his high school and, seeing that kind of thing. So those are some memories that I have. Did your grandparents ever come for holidays, or do you have any holiday memories relating to grandparents?
Yeah, they came pretty often for Christmas. And we usually went to Amarillo to my aunt's house for Thanksgiving. But grandmother and granddaddy would come for Christmas, and then later grandmother would come for Christmas with Aunt Kay and Fanchon and Landon. And we have several of those visits. I don't think we ever went to Dalhart for Christmas. It was mostly in our house. And that was always fun. I can remember, this was funny. I don't know when it was, but there was a place in Lubbock, a pizza place called Shakey's Pizza. And it was before, pizza was a big thing and you could order it fast and quick. But anyway, Shakey's Pizza, and we used to love to go there. And they had a blind piano player, and he was fantastic. And we could stand and we could watch them making pizzas, and it was kind of a laid-back kind of place. But I think I can remember my dad getting a pitcher of beer, and I can remember seeing my grandmother drink a beer, and I was just shocked, And then Sarah loves to tell this story. I think this is a Sarah story. But I can remember one time I was sick. My mother and father were both school teachers, so my grandmother came to take care of me. And I can remember one time she put wine in my Coke. I think she was trying to get me to go to sleep. But I don't know why she did that. It was like during the day. Who knows? But I remember my grandmother, something we used to love to have for breakfast was cinnamon toast. And Mother would make us cinnamon toast. And my grandmother was trying to make us cinnamon toast, but she didn't get it right because she forgot to put the sugar on it, because you had to, and it was made in the oven. You couldn't make it in the toaster. So Mother would put butter on it and sugar, and then just to sprinkle a little bit of cinnamon on it. But I can remember my grandmother made it, and it didn't taste good because she forgot the sugar part. But anyway, those are and I still have my grandmother's, this is one thing I do have a couple things actually. I have my grandmother's recipe box, and it has a lot of my mother's recipes in my mother's handwriting, but it also has recipes of my grandmother and my grandmother's handwriting, and it's just a treasure. It's lovely. My grandmother was a seamstress, and she would sew beautiful things, but she had a quilt topper, and I don't know, I think it's maybe her grandmother made it. It was just the topper, and it's beautiful. And then when Adam and I got married, and his mother and dad were from Iowa, and we got to know John and Karen. And they lived in a community where there were a lot of Amish families. And so Karen took the quilt topper and had the Amish ladies by hand. It's all done stitched by hand, no sewing machines at all. And Karen had them go ahead and complete the quilt. Oh, wow. And so anyway, I have it in my grandmother's hope chest, which was then my mother's, which I now have. And so that's in the closet in Sarah's room right now. But, and it's gorgeous. Mother entered it one time into the antique contest at the local fair, and it got first place. And I mean, it's over 100 years old. It's old. It is. And it's an absolutely beautiful quilt. I did have it out on a bed, folded up for a little while, but it's one of those treasures where you don't want to ruin it, but at the same time it's doing nobody any good in a chest. So Mother had it in her bedroom hanging over a mirror. But
okay, well, hey, let's go to halftime, and then because
let's hear from Cook with Wes.
Let's do. Someday we may actually put in other ads. We're not getting very many views.
Oh, we're gonna have a funnel cake ad.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh, yeah, we need to talk about fun games. Okay, so when we come back, Moose, get down. Moose just really wants to get on the bench here. And it's going to get cold because the sun's going down. But I got to tell stories about Grammy and Granddaddy because Mom's parents, I didn't talk about them. So we'll do that and funnel cake. So stay right by that dial. We'll be right back. This episode of Wes and Shelley Shares is brought to you by Cook with Wes. Cook with Wes is my, Wes Fryer's, personal passion project, sharing lots of food photos, a few recipe videos, lots of barbecue and smoked meat adventures, and many other recipes from my indoor and outdoor kitchens. You can find all our family recipes on food.wesfryer.com and follow Cook with Wes on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and Twitter. If you're on Mastodon, and really, why not? Since Twitter has become a bit of a dumpster fire, you can search for the hashtag CookWithWes to find my latest food shares there. Well, I did start a separate YouTube channel for Cook with Wes, but I've continued to post most of my cooking videos on YouTube on my main channel. You can access the complete playlist at wfryer.me/cook. Thanks for tuning in to Wes and Shelley Shares. I hope to see you on social media on one of the channels for Cook with Wes. All right, we're back. So I have many, many more memories of what my grandparents on my mother's side, who I called Grammy and Granddaddy, than Dad's parents. They were a little younger, I'm pretty sure. I think that they were born in the 19-teens. But I was able to live a number of years in Lubbock with Grammy. So when I graduated from the academy, I went to Mexico and lived in Mexico City for a year, and then got to choose my pilot training base and chose Lubbock because that's where Grammy was. Granddaddy had died at that time. I think Granddaddy died when I was maybe in middle school. And so, anyway, I had some wonderful, wonderful years with her. And then she was not very happy about Shelley because Shelley was intruding on her grandson relationship. And so, but Shelley won her heart in the end. And
yeah, because I got pregnant with her.
Yeah, that's right. Brought her great-grandchildren. And you worked in her flower beds and planted her iris, which I wish we still had some of those iris bulbs. Okay, so one of my lovely memories with my grandfather, because he's a very big hunter, he was a bird hunter and a deer hunter. was he gave me my first gun. He gave me a 410 shotgun, which was Grammy's. While she would go, I don't think she really would go hunting a lot with them, but I remember that was like about the only time I've ever shot skeet at a skeet range. And anyway, he was teaching me how to shoot a shotgun, and then I ended up going hunting with Dad. We just basically did dove and pheasant and quail bird hunting. I tried to go deer hunting with a neighbor. Maybe I can tell those stories sometime. When I was like a senior in high school, but we never even saw any. But that was really neat. And Granddaddy was a ham radio operator. You mentioned putting something in your drink, so that reminded me of the margarita story with Grammy. So this is kind of a fun story we tell. Granddaddy was first off, they were both from Louisiana. So his family, and they still live down in Houma, which is in very far south Louisiana, like really, really close. I think it's on the Gulf, actually. And then Grammy grew up in Shreveport. Belcher, I think, was the name of where she lived. We have a drawing of that home.
I don't know where it is. Do you know where it is?
Yes, it was on.
It was in the other house.
No, it was here. It was on. Yeah, it was leaning up against the. It's probably just sitting in the garage with those other pictures because it was on the high chair.
In the other house.
No, here.
No, in the other house.
Okay, so that's kind of cool too. We have this high chair that was has been used for generations and generations.
Your dad's side.
Right, on the Friar side.
Yeah.
Wooden high chair.
It was your dad's high chair. And it's been used by every child.
Every child since then has used that high chair. And we hope someday we'll have some grandchildren use that high chair. So this is Granddaddy, was a ham radio operator, and he talked to people all over the world. In fact, I think if it's genetic, some of my love of social media and sharing and interactive communication is probably, derived right from that side of the family. Well, Mom, their whole family, all four of them, Uncle Ron, her younger brother, who was born in he's like 6 years younger because he was born in 46. He's a baby boomer. Mom was born in 40. They all went to Mexico when Mom was in high school, and I think Mom was like a senior. And so I think Uncle Ron was in like 6th grade. They went to Hawaii on a cruise, and there's stories about that, and then there's stories about the Mexico trip. Well, anyway, they were on a quest for the best margarita. This was my granddad. And so he came up with it, and it has like 7 ingredients. And so one, was that for 4th of July? We went over to your parents' house,
That's right.
and we were going to make,
Aunt
Kay was there.
Did.
Was Fanchon and Landon were there too? Because that when Landon took us in his Jeep to the fireworks?
Oh, I guess so.
I think it was. And so we made Grammy was there, and we made Grammy's margaritas. And let me tell you what, if you had one, you were not probably legal to drive because we should make those again. I wonder if I have that in Mom's cookbook. I think I do. Anyway, that was a funny story. One of the hunting stories that I remember Grammy would tell me and I was proud of, they had a little RV. What was the name of their RV? It had a name. My family kind of all named their cars different things, and like we had Murphy was our RV that we had in Mississippi. But anyway, they were camping somewhere, and it rained a lot, and they were surrounded by water. Like they were up on a little rise, and so their RV was on dry land, but all around them was water. And so Granddaddy was a good enough shot that the doves would fly over, and he had to time his shot perfectly because he didn't have a dog or anything to retrieve. So the birds would actually fall on the dry land right next to the RV. Anyway, it's a story that I remember. So he was into like reloading his own shotgun shells. I think a lot of hunters probably were at that time. And I wish I had gotten to know him better. He died in a car accident. He was out scouting for places to go dove hunting, and he was driving out east of Lubbock, right outside of Floydada, and the coroner's report, decided that he had had a heart attack, and he had a head-on collision with a tree. And it was interesting because he always believed that he would die of accidental death, and so he had way more insurance for accidental death versus natural death. And so that was kind of a financially significant thing that they ended up finding it. It was interesting. But lots of memories with Grammy. Grammy was really a fireball. And I wouldn't probably say this story if Mom was still alive and listening. But, like, wow, could my mom ever draw out Grammy's, like, what would you even call it? Her fiery side. They would just feisty. They would get each other, like, they would get upset at each other. Yes, and it wasn't great. But there were a lot of great things. Like, Grammy loved to cook. You know, she lived through the Depression, and so she was in this generation that saved all these things. And she, you know, grew up in Louisiana. She could cook wonderful gumbo. Great memories when I was
cabbage rolls.
At Reese. Oh, her cabbage rolls. That's right. Which I did terrible. I forgot to put foil on top of them the last time I cooked them, so
they were a little crunchy.
They dried out. But usually I've cooked them good. I just hadn't done those in a long time. They're very simple. Well, my grandfather's favorite thing to say at the meal was, "I wonder what the poor folks are having tonight," because he grew up like dirt poor, and his family was Cajun. And that was that's French Cajun. And so anyway, being able to rise and just, your dad too, in terms of, humble beginnings and going to college and, seeing his children and grandchildren go to college. That's a pretty big deal. So, Grammy and I love to cook steaks. So she had a little grill, charcoal. And so this is when I was in pilot training, and then afterwards, because I washed out of pilot training, and then I was asked to leave the Air Force, in a story that I maybe will tell later.
That's another podcast.
That's another story. But anyway, it just gave us all this time, and so nothing was better than, steaks with Montreal seasoning and a salad and being able to enjoy that. One of my favorite pictures I think we got framed is both of us laughing, at her dinner table there, because she lived in a cottage at what was John Knox Village and then became Carillon, which is a retirement community there in Lubbock. And so one of the memories always for the holidays was Granddaddy working on our TV. He would always be behind the TV, because these were the days of these console televisions with vacuum tubes, and he was an appliance repairman for quite a while, and so he would always be fiddling with our TV to try to get the picture to be better or whatever. And Dad took all these different Super 8 movies which have been converted. We should do that this summer, or this Christmas, is watch some of those Christmas movies. So lots of good memories, and so much with food too, and I remember somewhere, okay, this tape exists too. Mom, sort of without Grammy's knowledge, recorded her on a cassette, and Grammy would refuse to talk if, like, the recorder was on. So one time, and this was probably after several highballs and little old fashions, she really told a lot of stories. So somewhere, I think in our garage, I've got a box full of cassette tapes and CDs and older media. So we should dig that out. But whatever. There was one other story I was going to tell about Grammy. Do you remember? Did your grandparents have pets, or do you remember anything relating to pets?
Not my grandparents, but my mom and dad had.
Dachshunds.
I grew up with Heidi, who was a dachshund that they had when I was young, but my grandparents didn't. Oh, cats. I think my grandmother had some outside cats, never inside cats, but I'm pretty sure that they were strays that she just kind of fed and hung around the house. But she was more of a cat person. We were more of dog people.
My dad grew up, what was the name of his dog? He said it in his interview. It was a hunting dog that he went with. And so he had a dog, but Grammy and Granddaddy had boxers. And so Ginger was the one that I remember. Oh, I remember pecans. Ooh, and Coca-Colas. I remember staying with them because at one point, maybe it was when Dad had started at Reese. They were living in Abilene. Oh, I'm jumping all around. Anyway, they lived in Abilene, and I think I started kindergarten there. I vividly remember Coca-Colas, and that would have been the really good ones with sugar and everything. And then they had all these pecans in their yard that they would pick up.
Well, Well, and then you had Fred and Alice, too. And they were kind of like adopted grandparents. And you would go visit Fred and Alice.
We should do a session about adopted family.
Yeah.
Just because we can tell about Danielle and about Fu and about Fred and Alice. So we'll do another episode to talk about them.
Okay.
So, all right.
Let's talk about some updates. So we have a few updates for those of you. I mean, it's only a week, but kind of an update on me and my job. So the lead teacher that I work with had a family emergency, and so I have been asked to step in as lead teacher at least through the end of October, and then they're going to redefine and kind of see. But that's kind of a step up. So I now have the full responsibilities of the lead teacher, and I'm enjoying it. It's been fun. 5th grade, science and language arts, and I come home and I'm really tired again, but I'm really enjoying it. It's been wonderful because I have a great relationship with the students. I'm familiar with the curriculum. My lead teacher and I are very similar in the way that we approach education, and so I'm playing catch up a little bit, just kind of getting my brain wrapped around lesson planning and all of that again. But that's been a great update, and it's going well, and comes with a little bit more money, so I'll have a little bit more money for Christmas, and so that's always a good thing.
Definitely. And it's such a blessing for us to ride to school together.
Sure.
I've really enjoyed just this week, just our conversations and being able to be together for that time. So I've really had a great week with the lessons that I'm teaching, loving web design and coding, along with my media literacy classes or computer apps classes. But funnel cake wise, we are working on getting a funnel cake business going. And so we've got our business mailing address, and I think it was weekend before last or whatever, we got the equipment from our neighbors. And then today picked up tables and got at Costco, cooking oil and powdered sugar and napkins and plates. And basically, I think we just need now our business license and the mix. And we had talked to the person we probably said this, at the farmer's market last weekend. So anyway, we're going to try to hopefully be able to do our first trial runs of the funnel cake business soon. And that is going to be exciting. So what do we want to talk about for our Wonderlinks and Wonderlinks? For Wonderlinks, you want to just talk about some podcasts that you like?
Yeah. So I am a big podcast listener. I usually like to listen in the mornings when I'm getting ready, or if if I'm driving, whoever drives gets to listen to their podcast. So if I'm driving, I listen to it in the car. But right now I'm listening to Oprah Winfrey's podcast. It's called Super Soul Sundays, or Super Soul. And this morning I was listening to her interview, I think it was from 2017, with then former Vice President Joe Biden, and just kind of hearing his story, and so much that I did not know. It's interesting. I told Wes, I said, it's so interesting when you hear someone's story, you begin to put the pieces together and understand them. Anyway, he had a pretty incredible start to his life and his career, and very tragic. And so I don't know, it's just, I really enjoy hearing the people that she interviews. She interviews a lot of authors, and really incredible authors, and people really digging into what it means to be human, and a lot of people's spiritual walk and mindfulness and gratitude. And anyway, it's something that I've been listening to and really enjoying.
That's awesome. That reminded me of something that's sort of a synthesis of a whole lot of different influences, but I've started what I'm calling an inquiry project called Heal Our Culture. So I registered a domain, healourculture.org, this last week, and I've been setting up I was originally just setting up a podcast to write down all these different books, and we will do. I want to do a session. Oh, we're gonna. That's right. I'm gonna start. I'm going to start a new podcast.
Of course you are.
With Sarah, but Shelley...
That's what we all need, is another podcast.
Sure. But Sarah, it's going to be called Heal Our Culture, and Shelley, I think, is going to be in the first episode with me, and we're going to talk about this course, which do we do week 6 this
Yeah,
week?
actually, did you see that the author's going to join us?
No.
Yeah, the
oh my
author's
gosh.
joining us.
It's
so
called,
we need to, I mean, he's
it's
going
called
to just be there for
it's called Confronting Whiteness, and it is really powerful and really, it's quite an experience. But anyway, I like to listen to Ray Suarez on Shifting Ground. It used to be the World Affairs podcast. Of course, all kinds of things happening in Israel with the tragic attack by Hamas on October 7th and this impending ground war. So I've been listening to different voices with that. I like Post Reports, which is from the Washington Post. I don't listen to this one all the time, but I had listened to a little bit of Al Jazeera English, the English Al Jazeera. So anyway, I listened to some different, political ones that are just about, current affairs and global affairs. I love Angry Planet. That is definitely one of my favorite ones. And kind of related to that, actually, I'm going to be able to teach a 6-week online course starting in January, which is going to be called Sifting. What do we call it? Not Sifting for Truth. Sifting for Media Literacy amidst conspiracies and culture wars. And so anyway, that is something that I am definitely looking forward to. That'll be good to build up to. All right, so those were some Wonderlinks. Did we say what we were going to do for our Wonderlink? We've already talked about in Close Springs. What was it called? Forest Trail Coffee Shop. That's where I was at Mint Hill this morning, and we need to go back there together. They have amazing savory pastries, and in addition to tasty coffees. So, Shelley, where can people get connected with you besides listening to your podcast?
Oh, and I think my webpage has been updated recently. So, ShelleyFryer.com, I think, /podcast. You can find the link, or you can listen to it on any of the podcast channels that you like to listen to.
That's right. And you can connect to Shelley on Facebook there, which is her primary social media channel. And I am like on 7 with varying levels of participation. But you can find all those at westfryer.com/after. So thank you very much for listening and tuning in, listening to our memories of grandparents. We hope that what we have shared has not
inspired
just
you.
Not just informed you, but inspired you to
inspired you to have a conversation with your grandparents and get some recordings and talk to them about their stories and save that for future generations.
Absolutely, because we have these amazing computers in our pockets, and hey, we should be doing very constructive and powerful things like telling stories to each other and recording things that we can share and pass along.
And it's getting chilly, so let's get going.
All
I
right,
need to walk this off again.
We encourage you to go outside, stay curious,
and have adventures.
Until next time, take care.
Wes and Shelley Share is a weekly podcast recorded and published on Sundays by Wesley and Shelley Fryer of Matthews, North Carolina. Learn more and find links to connect on social media to Wes and Shelley by visiting shelleyfryer.com/podcast. Content on this podcast is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution Only 3.0 license. The Wes and Shelley Share podcast is recorded and published with Anchor and distributed on all major podcast channels, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, and more. Please share our show on social media and tell others about us. Let us know on Facebook or via other means what you like about the show, that you're listening, and if you have any suggestions for future episodes. Stay curious, go outside, and keep exploring.